So to just give a little bit of context, kind of how we're moving with this is in terms of being a, however you want to call it, sacred sexual healing practitioner, or, give it the term that you want. That might not work for you. We were discussing all the different ways that this type of work could look out in the world and inside your own heart. And then as we go in, we're wanting to come from like a more subtle relationship to how we gain power, how we gain insight and intuition to do this work, and then tuning our instrument, and then a little bit more into the more gross level, right? The meaty level of the body, a little bit more on anatomy, and then I think the last classes, I think we're talking about orgasm. So we're kind of moving from the outer and more subtle realms into a little bit more of the denser realms. And with becoming the intermediary, I want to take a moment to encourage all of us to come into our center and into our body so that we can really feel the potential of subtle energy, especially right now in this time of the world. It's so easy to get stuck on the denseness of life and how intense everything is. There's just everywhere. There's so much intensity. And so I invite all of us just for a moment to tune in to your body. So get comfortable, let yourself settle into your seat. This training is part of ISTA, where we have a platform here with the spiritual, sexual, shamanic teachings. And so when we are talking about the practitioner training within ISTA, we need to address the aspect that works at the shamanic level. So as an intermediary, when we become an intermediary as a practitioner, as you may know, we literally become that vessel, right? We become the channel that allows us to receive insight and guidance from different areas, from different places. Some of us have already a very established toolkit on how to receive insight and information. And the work that we do as practitioners, we don't do it alone. We don't have to. We don't do it just purely on technique, right? There's plenty of schools that will teach you some really excellent techniques. We will also teach techniques. But there's so much more available to us than just the technique. And so there's going to be moments in sessions, and for those of you who have been practitioners for anything, maybe know those moments that something big happens and you're like, oh, what do I do now? And where do we draw the intuition? Where do we draw that insight from to be able to access what needs to happen in that moment? So within shamanism, there is the belief of animism, where everything that is alive. It's alive in its own form, and it has its own life force energy. And in fact, in terms of Tantra, even though we're not specifically teaching Tantra, the early roots of Tantra were all with animism. That's the original basis of the Tantric path. And the belief for all of us that there is an interconnected web of energy. And this web of energy is the interconnection between all things, right? And we call this the great web of life. So everything is known to be alive. Everything has a sort of a spirit to it, or can be seen as animated, and it's full of living beings that are both visible to us and also invisible. So I'm getting a little out there and esoteric with you. I hope that's okay. But as part of this web of life that we all exist in, within it, we have what we can see as emanations or manifestations, and they are beings of different forms that are available to us to support this experience of being a practitioner and being in the realm of being a catalyst or a healer, however you want to look at it, that there is support available for us. And it doesn't all have to come from up here. God forbid we bring it all from up here. And it doesn't have to come from just the things that you learned in a workshop or that you know to do with your hands, for example. I value experience a lot, and I value technique a lot. Just that we really want to make ourselves available to become the hollow bone, right? So we allow ourselves to be hollow for a moment, to sort of step out of ourselves and what we think we know, and allow spirit or guidance to flow through us. So in other words, we get to empty our minds, even in the midst of a session, right? Even in the midst where I'm the practitioner, I should know what needs to happen right now. But what if you don't? And what if you allow yourself to actually be empty for periods and empty your mind to become a clear channel and allow those allies that are seen or unseen to work through you? So we all have different relationships, and it may be something that you're super familiar with, and maybe it's something that is never even occurred to you. But one of the greatest joys for me of this work, and I've been putting my hands on bodies for over 27 years, and I've been working with allies, I will call them, since the beginning of my work doing sacred sexual healing work. And I don't think I could have done what I've done or what we've done without that support, right? So there's so much support that's available to us. And this could be considered like many names, right? Spirit helpers, guides, animal. It could have like an animal characteristic. It could be a human. It might be an ancestor spirit. It could be a deity, any kind of deities, gods, goddesses. It could be angels. It could be the Dakinis or the Apsaras, which are supernatural beings. Lots of possibilities. Whatever really aligns with you, right? Who aligns with you? I have certain guides or allies that have come more actively later in my career, and some that were there early on. Mind you, this is a practice for your life. This isn't just for your career. This is like you can be working with your guidance for lots of things. But I want to support that you support the possibility that for working with people, there's specific supporters, there's specific allies that want to work through you, that want to work with your calling. For this is no small thing. You didn't just stumble upon this. You were called to this. Not everybody is called to this. So consider that you are also being supported to move forward in this field in whatever form it takes, even if that's just to inspire people to be more alert and alive to these teachings. So a portion of your work while you are working as a practitioner, as a catalyst healer, is to become that intermediary between the spirit world and our clients. I'll just share from my perspective. Early on from the beginning, I aligned very much with the spirit of the Dakini. And essentially in Buddhist and Hindu cultures, Dakini is a celestial being. You can liken it to angels or some other celestial being that is a form of enlightened feminine energy. And she has the ability to traverse through space, like comes through space and is able to come into the aspirant, come into the practitioner and give that aspirant divine guidance, divine insight. So for me, the Dakini for many, many years was always there with me, aligning with me at any moment. Just calling on that would just put me in another state where I could actually penetrate into the person I was working with energetically, emotionally, from my heart, allow them to open into another space that I couldn't take them there on my own. I could potentially, but it might have been my ego driving that. Who knows? Maybe I was trying to make something happen rather than really allowing all of the support to come through and work through me. So in other cultures, there's different types of deities. And now I work with different guides also that have come to me, over the last several years. And it's a very personal relationship that you create. Okay, so our body needs to be a clear vessel for energy when we're doing this work. One interpretation of this is that we let go of our own agenda, right? And the agenda of our seeker, right? It's like sometimes we have the intention of the seeker and we have our own intention perhaps for the session. It's all very, very important. So I mentioned that in the session itself, sometimes it just means getting out of our own way and letting what needs to flow through. In our life, one of the things that we do in ISTA is to activate and release the emotional body. So that is one of those ways where you're using those tools right? Where you are actually working with yourself, doing the emotional tools, doing aspecting, going into the deep parts of your being and actually allowing that to come through, moving it out through sound, moving it out with shaking, all and with breath work. Those practices are a way that you start to actually clear the vessel. And we talk about this in ISTA, about getting current with your emotional body, right? This is also clearing your vessel for the energy to flow through, because when we come into a session and we have all this stuff, that we're bringing with us, it's hard to know what's really moving through as insight and intuition from our guidance system, or what's actually just like, I'm just really annoyed today because I never processed any of my emotional energy, and I'm just going to project that onto my client right now.